Welcome to FnPodcast, where we decode the digital world one topic at a time. Today, we're peeling back the layers of a hidden challenge that many organizations face: the use of old technology in a new age of cyber threats. I'm Felipe, I'm here with Luis, and in this episode titled Old Tech, New Threats, we're diving into the often overlooked but crucial world of legacy systems and their cybersecurity risks. So, whether you're a tech guru or just a tech curious, stay with us as we explore why keeping up with the times isn't just a matter of staying current, it's a matter of staying safe. So, thank you for joining us again on FN Podcast. Legacy systems, we see this across the board. One question that comes to mind: what are legacy systems?
Great question.
Is it something that when patching isn't available anymore? Is it when vendors say so? Is it when the end of life, basically just patching isn't available? Just or is it not recognized by vendors anymore? Or are hackers basically too advanced that these vendors aren't able to patch it? That's these are all great questions because most infrastructures, most organizations have legacy, specifically or especially if there's like a specific LOB line of business application that was customized, years back. How would they handle that if their vendor doesn't support new software? This is something that Lewis and I see constantly. What's your input on that, Lewis?
Yeah, certainly. Being exposed to so many different businesses that function and their processes, we see legacy businesses in all aspects, in different verticals. And one of the common factors that kind of help us understand legacy systems is like what Felipe mentioned is end of life. So when the provider of the hardware or the actual software developer stops providing maintenance support. So in hardware, for example, there's no more warranty. The parts don't exist anymore. We see that in the manufacturing space quite often, where this company has been operating for 10, 20 years, no problem, and then all of a sudden, the manufacturer goes out of business, and they're scrambling for some third-party support, etc., and they're trying to keep a legacy system alive, which is makes it very hard. Operation cost goes up and up and up, and they're basically at the mercy of a system that they should have considered the life cycle for. Ultimately, legacy systems are those systems without any future life cycle management. We see that with Windows updates as well. So, in the sense of Windows, we see Server 2003 servers out there still,
Windows 7 machines.
Windows 7, XP, and there's a lot of organizations that depend on these because they haven't considered modernizing. And I think
Maybe they have considered. It's just they're kind of chained to these vendors that don't are not constantly producing patches for their application. So at that point, who is liable for this technology, outdated legacy technology? IT company, MSP companies come in and want to help these organizations, but if there's a breach because Windows 7 machine has a end of life already, what happens? Is there a paper wall? Is there a risk acceptance agreement where the IT company is just not liable? Because we're starting to see a lot of this stuff. IT companies, mature IT companies, MSP companies getting sued. Schools are suing them because of negligence, or once the moment there's a breach, insurance companies start to take over and step in and say, hey, cool, we'll pay out, but who's your IT company? Because they're going to get sued. We're starting to see that across the board.
yeah, legacy systems definitely are very tricky to navigate from all stakeholders. The employees training gets harder to work with. Maintenance on the IT team and cost of ownership is for the business owners is difficult. And I think what what I like to think of is for our customers and prospects is how, when and how should you navigate to modernizing and moving past these legacy IT systems. And what comes to mind, what we typically do is we focus on ensuring that the existing systems have a disaster recovery plan first, and we apply compensating controls for those systems. So for example, there is no more Windows Server 2003 patching. However, well, at Function, we make sure compensating controls are segmentation on the network.
Absolutely.
So we can apply gateway antivirus. We put as much emphasis on trying to remove identities out of there. So in the small businesses that we deal with, we tend to see a one SMB server, SBS, for example, running files, Active Directory, and all these different functions. We try to start off with approaching the business owners and stakeholders by coming up with a project and an overall budget and direction. And sometimes these transitions from legacy systems to modern systems don't happen overnight. They never do. It's something that's progressively done. So it might be, hey, let's remove a function into somewhere else. So great strategies. Let's move identities into the cloud. So a great thing that we do is we start off by making sure we move customers from local legacy on-premise to cloud identities, or a hybrid solution like Azure AD with Azure AD Connect, and
It's an
etc.
Yeah, it's imperative to constantly communicate with with the customer, and if you're the customer, the IT company, and basically constantly be addressing the risk and the potential downfalls or pitfalls, because even going back to a machine older than Windows 7 or XP, we don't even know what backup software or disaster recovery software is available. So it becomes a challenge for IT companies to maintain this stuff, because customers or organizations are going to expect you to, hey, because they pay you, they're secure, and that's not the case. It becomes difficult to manage these legacy systems. And this is a good segue into, our next question. When should a small to mid-sized business consider moving its legacy technology to the cloud?
Yeah,
Right.
I think definitely a small business should start considering this when their costs are going up and they're having more outages. They're definitely losing third-party support. They're seeing themselves kind of stuck. And a great starting point is creating a plan of action where who's my support system? Is it a local IT company like Function, managed service provider like Function? Is it another software provider that has a native integration or migration process? Do we have a budget in place? So it all comes down to thinking ahead and planning. So just like everything else we've discussed in the last few episodes, planning and preparing is step one, and then ultimately is creating a plan of action where you can actually map out who is going to do what. So who's going to be your training point of contact, who's going to be your technical point of contact to deploy this, what are the impacts of these changes, etc. So things can get very complicated, but mapping it out with the trusted provider is step one.
Yeah, and I think that shared responsibility matrix is huge as well, because that application vendor, at what point are they liable as well, right? So as a managed service provider, we try to do everything possible for the customer's best interest, but at some point the risk has to be kind of distributed, in the sense where, hey, that line of business application, we can support you to a certain extent. After that, that vendor is liable. Hey, if we can't cover you, then at the end of the day, the customer is going to be eating that risk sandwich, so to speak. And definitely IT companies or managed service provider companies don't want to take on that challenge, or it may even come to a point where managed service providers won't even support you. That will be a thing. So it's going to force you to maybe get, one man show, one man IT guy that kind of band-aids things and doesn't kind of foresee some of this stuff, or just trying to make a buck. And all this you really have to account for, because ultimately it's your business at risk. And as we evolve and new threats and new technology, um, managed service providers are going to start becoming more picky on who their customer is,
Right.
and not is.
Yeah. And so to that point, a great start if you're listening in as a business owner is creating a data flow diagram, like kind of understanding if you have an existing IT provider, is asking them, hey, can you show me a data flow diagram of how this system works? Because if you understand how the data flows, then you can start kind of working with vendors to see, hey, this is kind of like our necessities based on the data flow diagram. I need processing here on this server to push out XYZ here. Maybe there's an IoT device out there in the market that can do 50% of the work. And a lot of times with legacy systems, it's not a direct replacement. The modern approach is creating a distributed effort. For
Absolutely.
example, one of the benefits of the Microsoft ecosystem is now you have SharePoint for files, you have Azure AD for identity. So you split the services. What used to just be one server for a business now becomes a mix of services on the cloud.
Leverage software basically to bridge that gap. And you start with that map he's referring to, is basically um, getting a high level picture of what that scope looks like, so that you can start rolling out cloud infrastructure and bridge those gaps with other software, other vendors that come in. And now you can, start updating or upgrading your infrastructure from legacy to something that's more sustainable, and something that it's very common, like a Microsoft ecosystem. You're gonna find managed service providers, like ourselves, that are certified. So we understand the product, we understand the ecosystem, and we're able to better provide you solutions around this ecosystem, to bridge those gaps, and have a better production environments, so that there's less downtime.
Agreed.
So if you like the topics we're delivering, give us a like, comment below. We would love to hear about your legacy systems and challenges that come with it. As we wrap up today's journey through the world of legacy systems and their hidden cyber dangers, it's clear that saying secure in the digital age means more than just using technology. It means understanding and updating it. I'm Felipe, this is Luis, and you've been listening to FnPodcast. Thank you for joining us as we navigate the delicate balance between the old and the new in technology. Remember, in the realm of cybersecurity, being informed is your first line of defense. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and stay cyber smart.